Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ushna Wasim and my roll number is BP1650247. My group number is 25. The topic which we have is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and the topic which I am covering is mild chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. COPD or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is a disease state which is characterized by the airflow limitation that is not reversible. It can also include the cause other diseases which can cause the obstruction or the restriction of the airflows, such as emphysema, chronic bronchitis, or a combination of both the disorders. Emphysema is a pathological condition by which uh, in which we are seeing destruction of the alveolar walls and enlargement of the air spaces. On the other hand, chronic bronchitis is defined as a chronic cough which can last from 3 months to at least 2 consecutive years. We can see two different images. In the picture number one, we can see lungs of a healthy patient and COPD patient. The lung of a healthy patient has a tracheal muscle, lumen, and the smooth muscle. But in the lungs of COPD patient, there's an inflammation, there's a thickness of smooth muscles, and narrowness of the lumen. On the other hand, in the picture number two, we have a normal alveoli and the COPD alveoli. The normal alveoli has a normal alveolar shape, its size, alveolar walls, airflow, and the smooth muscles. But in the COPD patient, there is an obstruction in the airflow because of the contraction of smooth muscles. Alveolar walls has been destroyed, due to which it loses its elasticity. There are certain symptoms which are related to the COPD that is cough, production of the sputum, and dyspnea on exertion. Dyspnea is a shortness of breath. It can be severe and it can interact or interfere with the patient daily activities. Weight loss is very common when it comes to dyspnea because it interacts with the eating habits also. Patient can develop COPD by exposure of different things. The exposure can include tobacco smoking, biomass fuel smoke, open fires, chronic uncontrolled asthma, infections, overcrowding, low socioeconomic status. There can be host factors also which can cause the COPD in the patient. The host factors include genes, that it can be genetic, hyperresponsiveness, lung growth, low blood pressure, and the advanced age. Now we are discussing the pathophysiology of the COPD. COPD is caused by the airflow destruction, which is usually a progressive disorder. What I mean by progressive disorder is that the disease can get worse with the time, and it can attribute to pathological changes in the lungs that affect the proximal airways, peripheral airways, lung parenchyma, and pulmonary vasculatures. Now, there are certain diagnostic findings or assessments by which we can diagnose that if the patient is having chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or not. Number one is the history collection. We can collect the history of the patient to know that whether it is genetical or not. Number two is the pulmonary function. We have to study the pulmonary functions of the patient to know the severity of the disease, that it is mild, moderate, or severe. Number three is a spirometry test. Spirometry test is an office test which is used to assess that how well the lungs are working. It can assess by measuring the amount of air inhaled and the amount of air exhaled. Spirometry is used to evaluate the airflow obstruction. Number four is the arterial blood gas. Number five is the chest X-ray, and number six is the alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency screening. This screening may be performed for the patients who are under 45 years of age and those who have a family history of COPD. Now we have the classifications of COPD. There are four types of classifications: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. Stage 1 is the mild condition in which we have the FEV value greater than 80%. Now, what I mean by FEV is the forced expiratory volume, which indicates that how much air a person can exhale during a forced breath. In stage 2, it is a mild moderate condition in which the FEV value is greater than 50% but less than 80%. In stage 3, it is a severe condition in which the FEV greater than 30% and less than 50%. And in stage 4, which is a very, very severe condition in which the FEV value is less than 30%. Pharmacotherapy of the COPD include the medications which can slow down the progression of the disease, but it cannot completely cure it. General guidelines will also be applied to the patient with the COPD to require pharmacological treatment. Patient will eventually require daily maintenance therapy for sustained periods, unless or until adverse effects of medication increases. The number of medications will communicatively increase or decrease, worsens. Inter-individual variability in the medication response is expected and requires a careful monitoring. The medication can include bronchodilators and glucocorticoids. Now we have the case study of a patient. TA, a 51-year-old white male smoker, presents with daily cough and mild dyspnea on exertion with strenuous activity. He has noticed that walking up 2 flights of steps bothers him when previously it did not. He has a slight amount of wheezing but no chest pain. He has no known for medical problems. He has smoked 1.5 packs per day for the last 34 years and he continues to smoke. His physical examination is unremarkable. COPD is being suspected. Office spirometry test shows that FEV is 0.69 and absolute FEV is 81%. At what stage he is and at what other diagnostic test would be necessary? What therapeutic intervention should we recommend to the patient at this point of the stage? Now we have the SOAP notes. SOAP note indicates subject, object, assessment, and the plan. When we look at the subject of this case, it includes age, which is 51-year-old, history. The patient has no medical problem, but he smokes 1.5 packs per day for the last 34 years, and he continues to do so. The chief complaint he's presenting with is daily cough, mild dyspnea, which is the mild shortness of breath, and wheezing. Wheezing is a whistling sound he is observing when he's breathing, and he is on no current medication. Objective includes spirometry test, which shows FVC. FVC is the force vital capacity. Now here, FVC, which is the force vital capacity, and FEV, which is the force expiratory volume, they both are the same things. FVC value is 0.69 and absolute FVC value is 81%. Assessment includes that assessment shows actually that the major problems which the patient is facing, which includes the symptoms of wheezing, but there's no chest pain. He's showing the symptoms of dyspnea, and he has a daily cough. Walking of 2 steps bother him. Then he's being examined. Based on the GOLD guidelines, we have been considered that he is a patient of mild COPD, that is stage 1. Now, how we concluded that in previous slide, it has been concluded that the FVC or the FEV is greater than 80%, which is 81%. And we have discussed earlier that when the FEV is greater than 80%, it is the mild stage or the stage 1 of the COPD. A chest X-ray is also being done to exclude the other respiratory diagnosis contributing the patient's symptoms. However, abnormal spirometry is sufficient to make the diagnosis of the COPD and initiate the therapy according to it. Now we are moving towards the plan of the case. The most important thing is clearly to cease or to smoke the smoking habit. It can be explained to the patient that he is developing an irreversible abnormality in his pulmonary functions. And if he won't stop smoking, he won't be able to prevent the deterioration of his lungs function. Secondly, we have to evaluate the immunization of the patient. Patients with the COPD are at a very high risk of morbidity and mortality of the influenza pneumonia. Now, what I mean by morbidity defines the rate of disease in a population, and mortality defines the state of being subjected to death. Patients should administer influenza vaccines between the month of October and January so that he gets adequate antibody response before the peak influenza season. The peak influenza season is the first quarter of the year. We have to administer the vaccine subcutaneously. If the patient is if the initial dose of vaccine was administered before the age of 65, so we have to give a second dose which is after the first 5 years of the first dose. In order to manage the symptoms of the patient, bronchodilators are being given, which includes number one is the beta 2 agonist. Beta 2 agonists actually produce bronchodilation by relaxing the bronchial smooth muscles through the activation of CAMP. CAMP means cycling adenosine monophosphate. The beta 2 agonist which we are giving is albuterol. Albuterol is given as 90 micrograms per inhalation. We are giving the beta 2 agonist in inhaled form. And if we are using in the form of solution for nebulization, it is 2.5 mg per 0.5 ml. The onset of action of the albuterol is very rapid. The onset of action is within the 5 minutes of administration, and it releases its effect within 15 to 30 minutes. Now we are moving towards the anticholinergic, the second type of drug which we are given that controls the bronchomotor tone by inhibiting the CGMP, cyclic guanosine monophosphate. The anticholinergic which we are giving is ipratropium bromide that is given as 18 micrograms per puff, and the solution for nebulization is 0.5 mg per 2.5 ml. TID, which means thrice a day, or QID, which means 4 times a day, daily. The onset of action of this drug is very intermediate, that is within the 15 minutes, and it produces its effect in 60 to 90 minutes. The third thing is the combination of both the drugs, that is beta 2 antagonists and anticholinergics. The combination of both the drugs is being given to decrease the dose of individual drug. Therefore, it can also decrease the side effects related to both the drugs, and it can increase or maintain the benefits. Combination therapy increases the FEV as compared to the FEV which is being increased by either albuterol or ipratropium alone. So it is more beneficial than the alone drugs. Now we can discuss the interactions or the side effects related to the medications. Although we are using both the drugs, that is beta 2 agonist and anticholinergics, in inhaled form, but there are certain side effects or adverse effect related to it. For example, in case of beta 2 agonists, some patient can complain of some adverse effects, which are tremors, tachycardia, that is increased heart rate, and nervousness. The side effect which is related to anticholinergics are nausea, dry mouth, and blurred vision. Ipratropium has a very localized effect in the lungs, and it has a very specific action in the larger airways. Because it has a very minimal effect on the sputum viscosity, so it can cause decrease in the drying problem of the airway secretion. That is why it is being selected or it is being used. Another benefit of using ipratropium, or another reason of using ipratropium bromide, is that its structure properties also reduces the penetration to BBB, which is the blood-brain barrier, which also reduces the chances of the CNS side effects. Thank you.